Hi, and welcome to Wine, Whiskey, and Words. I'm Brad.
I'm Daniel. Are we doing the soft voice today?
I guess so.
Hello.
Hi,
How are
I'm
you?
Brad.
Hey, big boy. Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Oh my god. Well, welcome back if you've listened before. If you're new, each episode we try something to drink. It's a special Sunday Fun Day edition. Hey, look, I didn't break the cork.
Oh, I thought you did break the
I
cork.
thought I did too. It really came out easy. Yeah, well, winner for me.
That's what she said.
Yep. Uh, if you're new, each episode we try something to drink. We talk about something interesting since the last episode, and then we talk about a topic we chose from the previous episode. We do our best to prep and research, but you know, sometimes we just make it up as we go
He
along.
does his best to prep and research. I spend
Yeah.
about 5 minutes and go, that's good enough.
Brad has no idea what he's doing here.
I don't.
But anyway, our main aim is really just to have fun and share our lives with listeners. With that said, let's begin. Um, let's start talking about the drink I brought.
Yes.
So, a couple of years ago, my daughter she was in the band, and
Ooh, was it a famous band?
yes, the Doors.
Oh, cool.
No, she was a lead singer for AC/DC.
Really?
Yeah, she screams well.
I like their song Seasons in the Sun.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
that and Hotel California, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so she was in the band, the marching band at her high school, and my wife and I would follow her around, and sometimes we'd get to wherever we were going early and find a wine bar or tequila bar, something bar. And we stopped in at Tarpon Springs and found this lovely little wine bar that I think it might be called the Wine Bar, but it's something like that. If you're ever in Tarpon Springs, Florida, look it up. It's on the main street. You'll find it. Anyway, they had this lovely blend that was a Cab-Shiraz blend from South Australia called Penfolds Max's uh, Cab-Shiraz blend. Good blend. I really enjoyed it. It's been a while since I had that. It's been at least 3 years. And I said, you know what? I got to remember this one. Well, I was at the liquor store the other day choosing our drink for this week, and I remembered it. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this through the fancy decanter that Brad gave me. Actually, Brad, can you pour this while I talk about this wine?
Sure.
All right. So, if you're not familiar with Penfolds, shame on you. You should be. Penfolds is actually very common. I see their wines a lot, whether I'm out at a restaurant or at a store. It's a very popular brand. And if you go to their website is kind of wild. It's got all kinds of stuff on it. They make a lot of wines, mostly in the red category. They do have some other varietals, but mostly red wines. Just a little bit of history about this particular brand. They were founded in 1844. The Penfolds, Christopher and Mary, carried their cuttings over to Australia. I did not get where they came from, so I'm guessing England, the UK, because that seems like where people came from in Australia. They were probably criminals based on the history of Australia.
They don't like you saying that.
I'm sorry to anyone who's Australian. If you're listening, it's Brad's fault. He gave me my notes. Anyway, so what's interesting about this is the husband was a doctor, and as they got settled in, they were growing wine, and Mary, the wife, actually took over. And in the 1800s, that's not a really popular thing. So I was really fascinated by this, and she took over the operations of the vineyards. And at one point they actually had a wine mobile, like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. They had like a motorized bottle of wine,
Okay.
which was lovely to see. If you go on their website, you can see a great picture. I'm envious. I really, Brad, we should make a wine mobile.
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. And then anyway, so they go on, and by 1920 they're producing a third of Australia's wine, which I thought was really cool. In 1948, Max Schubert, who this actually I haven't told you what wine we're drinking. Anyway, this is Max's Shiraz Cabernet blend. This is from 2021 is what I've brought. It's actually a very affordable bottle. I know we've done some fancy bottles recently, but I was really going for something that's good to drink, but also very affordable. So Max Schubert takes over in 1948 as their chief winemaker. That's what this is named after. This is Max's Shiraz Cabernet blend. And Max Schubert did some interesting things. There is a Penfolds bottle called Grange, and if you look up Penfolds Grange, it it's their signature wine. It runs for about $729 a bottle, so it's very very high end. But if you look up other Penfolds wines, they go by bin numbers often. And that numbering system, that naming system, came from the Grange experiment, where Max Schubert was trying to create a wine that he could age. This was his first attempt to do this. He had gone to France, to the Bordeaux region, and was inspired and said, you know what, I want to do this. He was actually told to kill the project and spent 3 years secretly testing his experiment before he said, hey, try this one. And the board said, wow, this is amazing. So it really put Penfolds on the map. To this day, the Grange is very high end, very fancy bottle, very sought after. If you go to a restaurant or something, you're likely to see, or the store, you're likely to see Penfolds everywhere. Cununga Hill is their Shiraz. It's very popular. It's very good. I've had it before. And this one, again, I had tasted it before and remembered it well, and I hope it's good. Brad, do you want me to read the tasting notes, or do you want to give your own tasting notes, and then I'll read what the so-called professionals say?
Well, I do get a lot of like the currant, the blackberry, blueberry, a little bit of like a tomato on there.
I can definitely smell the currant. Yeah, the blueberry is very present on the
Yeah.
taste. So it's got a slight sweetness to it, but lately I've been buying Cabernets, and I feel like a lot of Cabernets are going right now the almost the Camus, let's make it like Kool-Aid route.
Yeah.
And I, sorry to anyone at Camus, I actually do love your some of your Camus, but yeah, I feel like this is a nice balance.
It's a little hot. Um,
Like temperature wise.
no, 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 like alcohol, like when you take a
Ah,
sip.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's got a little bit of intensity, but I don't. I actually prefer that over something that's too sugary. So
Oh, no, 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 of course. Yeah.
it has that spice that I've come to love from a Shiraz. Like one of my favorite wines, and I'm sure if you're a first time listener, I spend a lot of time at Cooper's Hawk as a customer. Brad spends there a lot of time there as an employee, and I really love their Shiraz, and part of it is because of that spice that you get, and I like what that lends to this. I think it's a good.
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit more toned down because of the cab.
Yeah,
And you don't get as much of the star anise in here, although it's still slightly present.
yeah. So to read some quote unquote expert opinions from Wine Enthusiast, their comment was this inky-hued Cab Shiraz blend is a broody bottling with savory black olive and dusty library book note to the raspberry and blackberry fruit. There's a minty, earthy nuance too, plus a subtle polish of mealy, chocolatey oak. The powerful palate is densely packed with dark fruit and spice, cinched by chiseled tannins. While intended as Penfold's more approachable range, this vintage is a big, chewy one. I actually agree. This is kind of a chewy. This is not maybe not everybody's
Yeah,
favorite, but I like it. I think it's bold. This is more in line with what I prefer in a red wine.
I would definitely do this with like a big old piece of chocolate cake.
Absolutely. And I will say that the great thing about this bottle is it's a very good bottle. It's under $20. You can find that at pub. You can even find it at Publix, I think. It's a very good bottle, just really enjoyable. So I'm glad you you would like it as well. I
I'm
was,
getting a bit of like a minerality now
yeah,
too. After the first few sips,
and you get some of that on the nose when you're looking for it. I would say.
I never look for it. I'm a little bit
Look
dense.
harder, Brad.
Yeah,
Look harder. So
that's the name of my next book.
yeah,
Look harder.
look harder. All right. Well, that's the drink. Any other comments about the drink?
No, it's an easy drink.
All right. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's great. I think it's a good drink. There are some wines I've had that I say this needs the right food.
Yeah.
It's a wine looking for a meal. This is very much an American style. You know
Yeah.
what? You could drink this with a cocktail. You could drink it with, or as a cocktail. You could drink it with food. If I'm thinking food, you don't want to do something too bold or spicy. This would
No.
it would kill this.
I'd probably rather do this with food because the flavors on this tend to fade away quickly.
They do. It doesn't rest in your mouth for sure.
No.
So, well, cool. Well, Brad, what's happened that's interesting in your life since our last episode?
Well, as many are aware, I was in a car accident in December and been dealing with a bit of pain with that. And I got some shots in my neck. So that's supposed to help with the pain. Then that was on Monday. The first few days I had a bit of soreness, which is apparently to be expected. And then on Friday was the first day I woke up and I didn't feel much of the pain, but now I've developed other pains, more like on this side. So I don't know if having the pain that I had masked the pain on one side, and so now I had that pain. So and I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm now holding myself a different way, and then that's creating more of like a tension in my neck. So I don't know. This sucks.
All right. Well, I can relate. I will say I've had back pain and surgeries and all that horrible stuff starting when I was in high school, and I can relate to the shots. I don't know if it's the same shot you had, but I've had shots previously, and
They trick you. They trick you because they put you on a table like you're gonna get a massage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is not a massage.
Yeah.
No, they jab you like 8 or 9 times.
So I don't remember that, but I
Well-
do remember what you're talking about, where like once the pain goes away in one area, like the other area is it's almost like you said, like you're offloading the pain to other areas.
Yeah, but I think it was like 5 or 6 mini shots to numb the area, and then a few that really dug in deep.
But like, do you think overall your pain level is lower?
Time will tell.
Okay.
Time will tell.
Well, I hope it gets better. Um, so my something interesting. I actually have a couple things, I guess. Well, Pope Francis died last week, and our current and our former president embarrassed everybody. Was supposed to wear black. They both wore blue suits. So I go America.
It brings out the color in his eyes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Also, Donald Trump hit his 100th day in office this time. Between the last time he was president and this time he was president. So I'd like to take a minute to think about all the great things he's done. We'll come back to that. Anyway, so our topic: 5 cities, 3 things is what I got out of it. I hope I got that right. Brad, what was our topic last time?
It was pick top 5 cities you like to visit
in the U.S.
In the U.S., and then pick 2 or 3 things.
Okay.
In each city that you like to do.
Well, I'm not good with. I don't do numbers good. So,
no, you don't.
I just kind of went with it.
That's why you deal with computers.
Brad, what's your first city? What'd you go with?
I'm gonna go with Chicago.
God damn it! I was like, you know what? Maybe I should choose an extra one or two because Chicago, like, there were some that I was like, Brad might choose the same ones, and sure enough, first one, way to go, right out of
Yeah.
the gate.
So
What you got, Brad?
one of the things, Second City,
Second City.
Second City in
Was that the
Chicago.
comedy thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so Salen Sills and Howard Alcout founded the theater in 1959. It's a place where scenes and stories were created with improvisation, using techniques that grew out of Spolin's innovative teachings, later known as theater games, with Sills as its director. The cabaret theater comedy style of Second City tended towards satire and commentary on social norms and political figures and events. And just a few people that their careers started with Second City: Joan Rivers, Alan Alda, Alan Arkin, Eugene Levy, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Keegan Michael Key, Stephen Colbert, Chris Farley, Jason Sudeikis, and many, many more.
So I will say, so Second City, one of my favorite shows, and I haven't watched it all, so don't ruin anything for me. But one of those shows I really love in recent years is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
Oh yeah,
and that was set in that 1950s era, right? 1960s, 50s.
yeah. It was around the 50s.
Yeah.
She dies at the end.
Fuck you, man.
No, I haven't seen the last
All right,
season.
all right. No, but like I said, great show by the way. If you haven't seen it, but yeah, like I've never even like I might have seen Second City, but I couldn't pin it if I saw it. But yeah, like what you described made me think of that show.
Well, you have like I don't know if you ever heard of SCTV.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so that was SCTV came out around I think the 90s or so. Um,
Oh, that was Second City.
Yeah,
All right,
Second City.
all right. Well, since we both chosen the same thing, um, I actually one of the things that was I just put a question mark because I was unimpressed. I put the Millennium Park in the bean.
I almost put the bean, but then I left that out. I mean,
It is it is so underwhelming. Like I mean, yeah, it's big, it's silver, and it's in the park. But I don't know. I did not find that to be impressive at all. It reminded me, honestly. Well, actually, the Jacksonville thing came out afterwards. But remember a couple years ago when Jacksonville planned to build the big like silver statue where the landing is?
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what when I saw that I was like, oh, that reminds me of the bean. But yeah, the bean is I don't know. Maybe I'm not cultured enough to appreciate abstract art, but I was very disappointed in the bean.
Well, as you should be.
All right,
Uh,
Brad, what you got next about Chicago?
uh, 360 Chicago observation deck in the John Hancock Observatory.
That's not the Willis Tower. That's separate, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure it's not the Willis Tower. So that's a really cool place that you can go and see all kinds of views of the entire city. That's the place where um, I've seen pictures of it, and I've said, "Hell no, I don't want to go there." Where you can kind of uh, lean up against the glass.
Oh, where it pivots you out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see the whole city, and it's pretty wild, the coastline and everything. I think that'd be something pretty cool to do, and of course, you can get drinks before you do it, so makes it all the crazier.
I'm a big fan of a up top view, but I don't know that I need to like lean out and look down.
Yeah, I
That
could do it for a second.
no, I'm gonna pass. That's a hard pass for me. But on that note, one of the things that I've only been to Chicago once, and it was cold. That's what I remember. Very like the windy city. Like it's accurate. It's very cold, especially in the winter. No, actually, I haven't been in when it's not winter, but it's cold in the winter. But I will say, like the architecture there, um, both old and modern. If you're an architecture nerd and you like just walking around looking at interesting things, it's a beautiful place. It's a great city to just wander, if that's your thing. There's lots of good food there. I was impressed with Chicago. I liked it in general. Wow, Brad, you like that wine?
I'm just thirsty.
Okay, well, um, so one of my things that I guess I'm skipping you. That's fine. One of the things I
That's fine.
loved most about Chicago, and I spent most of a day in this museum, is the Art Institute of Chicago, and it's right, but right there by the Bean, and it has some just amazing artworks that you've probably seen. One of my all-time favorite pieces of art is Sunday on La Grande Yacht,
Oh, I
and
could have sworn you were gonna say dogs playing poker.
no, it's up there, but no. But Sunday on La Grande Yacht is a pointillism piece by Seurat, and because it's pointillism, if you don't know what pointillism is, it's where they like just put a bunch of dots
Oh,
on
is
it
that the one where the park, where all the
with all
people
the
are in the
people.
park and
Yeah,
they're on the
overlooking.
lake?
Yes,
Okay.
and so I had always seen this, and because it was pointillism, in my mind, I always assumed this was a small, maybe 2 foot by 4 foot canvas. And the way they have this set up, when you walk into that room, it is an entire wall. Like, think about one of the bedrooms in your house. It is the size of that wall. It is magnificent, incredible. It will take your breath away. And I didn't know it was there. I just went in. I was just, checking out the museum, and it's just one of the artistic moments of my life that just took my breath away, and it's wonderful. Other works of art there that you probably know: American Gothic, which is that couple with the pitchfork in front of the very uh, uptight looking couple. Nighthawks, which is your corner diner, that very famous picture. You look it up. It's by Edward Hopper. There's a Van Gogh. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Self portrait. Water Lilies by Monet, and then The Great Wave by Hokusai, which is I actually recently bought a phone case that has The Great Wave on it. So
Oh,
you can see
hi.
this up close. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, the Institute of Chicago honestly is so great. Probably worth a trip to Chicago just to see that. If you can't do anything else, that's my recommendation. So, sorry, Brad. What else you got from
That's
Chicago?
okay. That's it really from Chicago. I wanted to pick two things that I hadn't done, um,
Okay.
and I wanted to go ahead and do. So, what do you have on your list?
So, one of the places I had is very southern. It's a place I grew up going to a lot, and it's a place that has changed in my lifetime. I chose Chattanooga, Tennessee. Chattanooga, Tennessee, when I was very young, was a place where you didn't go downtown. It was kind of like Jacksonville was. Um, Probably even worse. It was a crime. There was nothing there. Everything was closed up. In 1992, Chattanooga opened one of the things that I think is one of the coolest attractions there, which is the Tennessee Aquarium. They expanded it in 2005. Their goal was, we have to bring people back, or we are just going to die as a city, or stay dead as a city, arguably. The Tennessee Aquarium is just wonderful. It arrived before whatever the one in Atlanta is. I forget what it's called. Might just be the Atlanta Aquarium. But massive aquarium. Has a lot of different things. It has like a river side and an ocean side, and it has up top where you get to see like non-water animals. It's they've made it the centerpiece of the riverfront in that downtown Chattanooga, and it is just it's beautiful. It's magnificent. It is worth the admission fee, or was last time I went, which it's been a couple of years, but I can't imagine it's changed much. Other attractions in Chattanooga that I think are worth checking out: Ruby Falls. There's this guy who basically there was this cave that was well known in the area by like Native Americans, by the locals, and then in the I think it was the 20s or so, they decided to build a tunnel for a railroad, and it blocked off this cave. And this guy Leo Lambert, who looks a lot like Willem Dafoe, if you look up his picture, it's kind of weird, but anyway, Leo Lambert said, "Yeah, I remember this cave. Let's find it." So he actually drilled a shaft down and crawled 17 hours through this cave system once they hit an open area, and found Ruby Falls. And if you get the opportunity to go, it's a really cool tour because you go down this elevator and you walk through this really well lit, well designed cave, and they walk you in to the waterfall in darkness. They're like, hold the rail, just walk in. And sorry, you need to look at the young
No,
Willow.
I was going to tell you, I was going to say, if you are searching for Leo Lambert, the first person that's going to come up is the president emeritus of Elon University.
Yeah,
That's not the one.
you need to look at
The
the
one,
yeah,
the one is, and he does look like Willem Dafoe.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, so like it's just a really well designed experience. And if you like caves and that kind of thing, it's one of the better ones I've ever been to. So it's right up there. And while you're up at Ruby Falls, hit up Point Park. Most of the attractions in Chattanooga are on Lookout Mountain. That's their big deal. There was a battle in the Civil War, and I think there's a lot of history there. But Ruby Falls is definitely worth seeing. And also, you may have seen the barns with Sea Rock City on them. Rock City is up on Lookout Mountain as well. It's a attraction that opened in 1932. I learned that it didn't become popular until 1935 when they went around the United States, mostly in the Southeast and the Midwest, putting Sea Rock City on barns. That's really what drew people down. There's a claim that you can see 7 states from the top of from Rock City. It's disputed because the pollution now makes it very hard to see, but maybe it can. Who cares? They were supposed to build a neighborhood, residential neighborhood, but it turned out that building a mini golf course, which was the first in America, by the way, and a giant rock garden with fairy tale inspired stuff was cooler. So Rock City definitely worth seeing. And I'm going to squeeze in 2 more real quick. Chattanooga Choo Choo, you can actually stay in a train car. It's a hotel and attraction.
Fantastic.
And there is a restaurant called Taco Mamacita that has the best margaritas and tacos in the Southeast, arguably. So, anyway, Chattanooga, Tennessee, big on my list. So, on to you, Brad. What you got next?
I'm going to go with New Orleans.
Okay.
New Orleans.
Nolans.
Nolans. So, I mean, I've been there a few times before, but in doing the research, I found out they actually had the National World War II Museum there.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that's something that's interesting to me. I visited the Holocaust Memorial Museum before in Washington, D.C., and so this one, as I said, is in Nolans, and that's something that would be interest of me to see.
So
know.
I find that town to be really interesting. It's unfortunate that I don't know. If you're in a party mood, it's a fun place to party. But it's unfortunate that it's such a party hotspot because I do think it draws away from the other aspects that are really wonderful. Last time I went actually was this past year. I went to visit my daughter in Mobile, and it's like a 2.5 hour drive. And I said, let's go over. And we were walking along, and we're looking at this beautiful architecture. We stopped in a museum, hit up Bourbon Street, and she just said, "Dad, this just isn't my thing." And I got it. It made sense. It wasn't my thing either. The one place that actually had a beautiful jazz singer, she wasn't old enough to go into. So it depends on your mood, but yeah, New Orleans is a cool town.
Yeah, and so there's in the museum right now they've got on American Shores the Aleutian Islands campaign on display. So you're going to be seeing a lot of artwork. You're going to be seeing stories about Hedy Lamarr, Eleanor Roosevelt, of course about the concentration camps. You're also going to see a ton of airplanes
Oh, really?
in there as well.
Interesting.
So it just sounds really interesting. I think anytime that we can take a look at our history and just soak it in, the better.
Road trip.
So, what else is not anything necessarily specific, but I would love to go and just hang out and see some live music over there. Really interesting is the last time I went to New Orleans, I remember walking around, and I mean, granted, this is like July or August when I went there. It was hot, and there's this guy, and I have it posted somewhere before, but he's dressed in full Darth Vader,
Whew,
and he's
that sounds
he's
miserable.
kind of dancing and gesturing to Led Zeppelin song.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wish they had included that in the movie.
yeah,
What else you
that
got?
would have been cool.
What else you got about New Orleans?
Um, that's it over there. I mean, I think people focus on the party aspect of it, but there's so much history to be seen over there. I think it's important.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of the museum that my daughter and I went to. Um, we went to a really interesting museum right there in the French Quarter, and it's not showing up, so I can't tell you what it was called. But they had a wonderful exhibit on incarceration in New Orleans and well, in Louisiana in general, and it talked about how it was very much driven by the a desire to keep people working for very little income. It was there was some racism involved, but it really didn't have it had less to do with racism. I mean, it did have to do with racism, but it had more to do with these business owners, no matter what the area was, wanted a cheap source of labor, and to this day, they have a really endemic problem.
Right. I think it's having to do with you know narcissism and just wanting to keep as much money for yourself, and then racism was a venue, a way to get their end
Right,
goals.
because people weren't going to stand up to him because
Right.
it didn't hurt their race. But no, like I said, I agree with you that a lot of it gets lost because of the party atmosphere. But in the daytime, there are amazing like art galleries. Like honestly, some of the art galleries my daughter and I went. If I had the cash to just blow on art, I probably could have spent easily 100 grand on just magnificent art that you don't get to see a lot of places. So
So you and Jamie just don't eat and drink for a year. I mean,
no, this I love that you think I'm like independent. Like, hey, look, man, I had to get the $20 bottle of wine for this one. Okay.
well, it's better than a bottle of Manischewitz.
You know what? I almost so like I was walking through. So Total Wine has a whole section of Israeli wines, and I
Yes, they
almost
do.
bought some, just to see. And I was gonna buy Manischewitz as like the benchmark.
Yeah, you could do water as the benchmark, and it would be higher than Manischewitz.
My buddy Jesus, he does a thing with water,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you about it later. Um, sorry, horrible joke. I should really stick to things.
Yeah.
All right. So, my next location actually is the place we are now. The
Your house?
Yeah, my house.
Okay.
No, the Tampa Bay area I think is worth mentioning. I We moved here about 8 years ago, and while I'm sure there are better places to live, I love it. I think the Bay Area at large, yes, different little cities cater to different groups, but the area as a whole, which is a rather large area, so maybe it's unfair for me to include this, has a lot to offer. Um, Downtown has this wonderful river walk that goes from a place called Armature Works, which is the old trolley building that they have converted into a retail and restaurant space and entertainment space. That's just very well restored and well done. And you can walk, I think it's about 2.5 miles down the river, all along the river, past the Tampa Museum of Art. There are tons of restaurants along the way. There's a place called Sparkman Wharf that they've revitalized. That's kind of a riverfront, almost like the Jacksonville Landing. There's a lot of shops and restaurants, and then it ends sort of at the Tampa Bay Aquarium, which is pretty good. It's not. It's kind of small, but it's fun. They got you can pet a stingray or something. Cool. But like I said, I find our downtown area to be really nice, and I'm a big fan. Um, a little further away from that, across the river, there's Bayshore, which is this long, I don't know, 5-6 mile path. It's just a sidewalk along the river, but there's a park, and just a beautiful. I find our downtown to be really nice.
Well, then, I mean, if you include the greater areas, you've got the Dolly Museum.
Yep, that was on my list. St. Pete is just really cool in
Yeah.
general. So, fun anecdote, they have this pier area, which there's a big park there. There are art installations. They have like weekend markets and things. But the former iteration, the last iteration of the pier down at the end, my grandfather actually did all the steel drafting for. It was this
Oh,
cool
wow.
like inverted pyramid shape, but my grandfather actually had done all the steel work for that. Um, Really cool, like family history thing. Now it's actually just as lovely. It's an interesting architectural design. There's a lovely tiki bar at the top. People fish from the end of the pier. It's a neat spot. But yeah, St. Pete is definitely, it was on my list, and the Dali Museum was tops there as well. There's also a lovely bayfront park there next with an art museum that's not the Dali Museum that I highly recommend. Um, there's tons of restaurants and bars and things like that. So good spot. One other thing I will say about our area, we have the bay. We also have a lot of beaches. You can go to Clearwater Beach, which is kind of your hyped up, very crowded but busy beach with lots of bars and things. But as you get down towards St. Pete, you get to Indian Rocks, Madeira, Treasure Island, things like that, which are these small beaches that don't have a lot of parking. So if you're looking for that more secluded experience, where you might have to walk a little bit to find a restroom, um, you know, there you go. But yeah, I think I think Tampa is just a really cool area. Um, there's a
There's
lot of
plenty of things to do.
culture, and a lot of cultures that you wouldn't encounter elsewhere, I think, unless you were really, really looking hard.
Hmm.
So, what you got next, Brad?
Uh, let's go with Seattle.
Oh, can't
Seattle.
speak much about it. I've not been.
So I have been, although it was for I was only in that area for a few days. But one of the things is, if you really are into wine, that whole greater area, basically within 2-3 hours from Seattle, you've got a lot of major wine countries. You've got the Yakima Valley, Horseheaven Hills. You've got um, oh my God, my brain's not working right now. But anyways, you've got an area called Woodinville, which has more wineries per capita than anywhere else in the United States.
Really?
It's because you're if you're going to Woodinville, you're not going there to see all the scenery, the vineyards. You're going there to get the wine,
Okay.
because that's where a lot of the wineries set up shop. And they've got like a little warehouse district over there where you can literally hop, 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 and hit 60 to 70
So
wineries.
that's not a vineyard region. That's truly an
No,
industrial
that's
region,
more
commercial region.
industrial. There
Okay.
are some wineries with vineyards in that
Okay.
area, but I'm saying primarily you've got a lot of places setting up shop.
Okay.
So for wine, it's fantastic,
Good to know.
and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg like you would in Napa to to go ahead and do tastings.
Hmm. Interesting. Good to know. What?
Um, Also, another thing that you would absolutely love, sarcasm, the Space Needle.
Oh my god.
So, a little bit about that. At 605 feet tall, the landmark was constructed to symbolize humanity's space age aspirations. And since its grand opening on April 21st, 1962, continues to represent the innovative and forward-thinking spirit of Seattle. The tower's 520-degree saucer-shaped top house offers visitors Seattle's only 360-degree indoor and outdoor panoramic views of downtown Mount Rainier, Puget Sound, and the Cascades and Olympic mountain ranges. I just thought that's really cool to be able to see so much from that one place.
I do appreciate, like I said, a view from up high. There's just something about it. I think it's that. I think it's that perspective that our primal human existence thinks of. Like if we think about what God looks at, being able to look down on the ants
Yeah,
with your magnifying glass.
it's what I always do.
But no, like I appreciate that kind of stuff. I find like um, phallic inspired monuments to be just an odd aspect of things we do.
Well, take away the shape of it, but being able to see everything.
Yeah, I feel like no, I appreciate that. I just feel like it's one thing when you build the John Hancock building or the Willis Tower where you have like it serves a purpose. It's another like look at this big tall thing I built so you could
But
see.
it's a piece of art, though,
That's fair. All right.
because if you think about it, think of it as performance art, and everything around it is the canvas.
Okay. All right. I promise to consider that.
In case I haven't told you before, I'm really fucking smart.
I mean, all right. We can we can go with that. Hold on. I've broken my. So I love to anyone on Apple who's listening to our podcast. I would like to say that my laptop frequently just goes into like dark mode where I can't actually see the screen, and I don't know how to turn that off, but it's really irritating.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else about Seattle?
Yeah,
You
well,
did.
I mean, there's that whole area, Washington to Oregon, is just gorgeous as far as national parks, falls, and
Don't fall, Brad.
wonderful hiking places. I've fallen for you.
Me too.
Anyways, yeah, Jamie has told him several times, stop falling for yourself.
All right. So my next town is a little town some of you may have heard of, but some of you may not. It's totally a tourist trap.
Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah. No. Helen, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
So just maybe an hour and a half north of Atlanta is a little town called Helen, Georgia, and Helen, Georgia, from its founding, was a logging town. And in the '60s, it was struggling. It was dying. Logging had just they had, you can only cut down so many trees before you run out of trees. They don't grow that fast. So in 1969, a couple guys got together and they're sitting there and they're talking like, "What are we gonna do?" And they decided one of them had been to the Bavarian Alps, and they said, "You know what? Let's make this a tourist location." So by the by the end of a couple years later, they had actually added facades to the entire town to make it resemble a Bavarian alpine village, or I guess what they thought a Bavarian alpine village might look like. And so you have this just lovely, like, fantastic place to go in the middle of these mountains. They're not big mountains, but they're pretty. They're green most of the year, and it's become this attraction. And they have wineries that have opened up. Now they are not. You're not going to get the fancy cabs. You're not going to get a lot of the variety. Well, you'll get the varieties you get, but like they're not. The wines don't taste like what you're used to if you're drinking
Those are
California.
really high quality grapes from Georgia.
But they have some good ones.
Okay.
They really do put a lot of passion and effort into what they're doing, and I highly recommend. There are a lot of companies around there that'll do a bus tour, pay for the bus tour, take the bus tour around to the winery. There is a place called Habersham Winery. They have a tasting room right there next to the town, maybe half a mile away, right next to an antique uh, shop, which is really nice. Habersham is great. I actually think their wines are probably the best of all the ones I've been to there. Um, but the town itself is really cool. There's lots of like you can buy little German gifts and things. I don't know what tariffs might do to that, but it's fine. One of my favorite restaurants anywhere. There's a place called Hofer's Bakery and Restaurant, and if you like baked goods or German food or both, Hofer's is fantastic. It's worth a stop by. You can also like in the summertime tube straight through the downtown. Like yeah, you can get like hop on an inner tube and just float through.
Okay.
It's a cool place. There's lots of beer gardens and things like that. I Helen, Georgia is cool, and there's lots around Helen that you can visit. There's tons of cabins, and you can rent if you've got 4 or more people. Rent a cabin. Super economical way to stay. Lots of them have pool tubs and or pool tables and hot tubs, and lots of like it's just a great way to enjoy the mountains of North Georgia. Another place that's nice is Unicoi State Park. Georgia's state park system is probably the best that I have seen. Um, they have invested tons of money, and Unicoi has a wonderful lodge and cabins and things like that. So yeah, I can't recommend Helen, Georgia enough.
I can't recommend Helen, Georgia.
Have you been?
No, that's why I can't recommend it.
Let's go, Brad. Let's go.
All right.
All right. Got anything else?
Anything else about
Any?
Georgia?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, do you want to make some comments about Georgia? I'm sure.
I'd rather not.
Sure, we've got some people we can offend.
I'd rather not.
All right, Brad. What else you got for us?
Denver.
Oh, okay.
Denver.
Horrible airport. Worst airport ever. Sorry.
I would know. I drove there.
Continue. Don't fly. It's the worst.
Worse than Atlanta?
Oh God, it's worse. Like at least Atlanta, like you can get around. Like in Denver, you land, then you have to go up the stairs, then you have to walk down, and then you have to go down the stairs, and then you have to go down some more and walk up this. Like it's insane. It's like they hired a 5-year-old to
Now,
design.
did you have a connecting flight from there?
Yes, I've never actually stopped in Denver.
Okay,
but like
no, that's why. That's
to
what
connect through Denver is the worst.
Yeah, that's
so,
what.
Anyway.
Because that was a similar experience that I had in Atlanta. Because it's like trying to catch. Because I was flying. I think it was from like Miami area to Atlanta, and then over to um, it was. I think it was to like Canada or whatever, because to hop on a cruise ship, and it was like rushing to get to the connecting flight.
So I will say, like, yes, you often in Atlanta have to like switch terminals, which is a pain in the ass. But while it is chaotic and there's a lot to it, it's to me very organized chaos. Like it's very well like the signage is clear, it's very clear, it's all on one level more or less. Like it's I find it to be easy to navigate the Atlanta airport, whereas I did not find Denver easy to navigate. So anyway, sorry, I didn't
All
mean
right.
to derail you. Go for
Whatever.
it. Denver.
I've seen a show here before, but I'd love to go again to see a show at Red Rocks.
Yes.
Especially now that I know I need to mark where my car is so I can find it afterwards. Because have you ever been there?
No.
Okay, so
but I have lost my car.
It's this beautiful natural basically theater that's outside and just amazing acoustics.
Is it like rocks?
Yes.
Are they
shut up. So
sorry.
The problem is that when you park, you go to the show afterwards, there's no lights out there.
Oh, really?
There's 0 lights. It took me 45 minutes of walking around to find my car. At least 45 minutes. I walked everywhere. It was a pain in the ass.
It certainly seems like an argument for putting like neon on your like LED lights or something on your car. So
I think I mentioned. I think I said something about that afterwards. Like I would need to do something like that. That's a fantastic idea.
Yep. Next time.
Next time, definitely.
Plan B.
And I saw the show that I saw was Cypress Hill.
Wow. Okay.
Over there. Yeah. It was a really good show.
I bet.
And it was right after oh my God. I can't remember his name right now, had passed away. And so of course they did Biz Markie.
Okay.
Bismarcky. So they did, oh baby, you got what I need.
Nice.
Anyways, also, uh, I there's a new kind of an interactive art installation slash amusement center, whatever, um, that's opened up in the last few years, and in a few places, but they've got one over in Denver called Meow Wolf, and it's trippy, and everything is interactive. You'll walk around yourself. Um, you can enter doors that look like it's going to go to the bathroom, but you end up in a grocery store, and just the amount of detail to everything, like to the products that are in the stores. Um,
This is an interesting side effect of legalizing marijuana.
it's wild. I mean, you'll see. Yeah, if you see this place, you'll go, I think I should be tripping when I'm in there.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's amazing the what you can do, and it's one of those things where it's not curated, where you're having someone going, and here's this and here's this. You choose your own adventure
Okay.
and go through it as you may. There's a restaurant inside as well, but it's all, yeah, it's like you went into some weird universe where everything was distorted and alternate, and I don't know, but you've got to see it. Look it up. Meow Wolf, WULF.
Okay.
um and you'll see. In fact,
Well, nobody's gonna see that except for us, Brad. We'll look it up later.
I'm
All
going to
right.
show you so you can see
Well,
what the hell I'm
while
talking
he's
about.
pulling that up, wait. Was there something else about?
Yep. See this?
Oh, I think I have seen pictures of this. But anyway, continue.
All right.
Is there anything else about Denver that you want to say?
Yes, there is.
All right.
The zoo.
Really?
Denver Zoo is phenomenal. I went there when I went to Denver. I went over there, and it's it's a nice layout. It's easy to walk around. Um,
Hmm.
the animals were fantastic. They greeted you when
Oh,
you walked in.
did they raise their top
Yeah,
hats?
the penguins did.
Yes.
Luckily, I didn't go over there
Luckily, you went.
recently because they would have been bitching about the tariffs.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, pound it out there.
yeah, but no, yeah, it's. I think anytime if you can visit uh, a zoo that's presented itself in the right way, meaning as much room as the animals can possibly have, uh, that it's great, and I think you appreciate the animals more.
I do think it's really cool how I remember as a very young child. Um, I remember going to my local zoo, which Jacksonville Zoo. It's improved over the years. They did always have at least one area that was pretty wide open, but most of the pens were very small. It was that more historically, you know, yeah, hey, we have an animal. Here it is in its cage. And I love the evolution of zoos over the years where we've started to become more conscious of like, hey, let's not be assholes. Yes, they're penguins, but maybe they should be treated with a little dignity. Um, and I love that. I think that's a really good. I don't know. It's a highlight of humanity that we've started to design zoos that are a little better and nicer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then also, one park that I took a look at, the Rocky Mountain National Park.
Okay.
I think anytime you can visit some really superb national parks, it's great because over there you're going to see a very different topography than you would for those of us who are from Florida. Seeing the falls.
And
Um,
and like the mountains out west are just a different breed than what we're used to on the East Coast. The East Coast mountains kind of build. Like you start down in Alabama and you get hills, and you get like bigger hills, and then you get something that's technically classified as a mountain, but it's pretty much a big hill. And you go northward and you get more like true mountains. But what I remember most, and I've only been to Colorado one time when I wasn't just passing through at the airport. we actually flew into Colorado Springs. And what I remember is looking east and seeing flat. And then you look west and there's maybe 1-2 miles of flat. And then the mountains just go straight up. They're just magnificent. And you're right. It's a very different geography and a different topography that you're not used to seeing.
And it's very harrowing um, if you have a fear of heights.
I can imagine.
Driving through in Salt Lake City, I had a friend that told me I should visit some of the different lodges just to see, the scenery, and I couldn't make it to the second one.
Really?
Yeah, because my fear of it's one of those things where, hey, I know I'm going to be fine, but you just
Interesting.
yeah, it's
Wow.
no joke. Once I made the decision to turn around, then I started to feel better. But I mean, when you're driving around these mountains
Yeah.
and it's on a 2-lane road with no railing,
So I think I have a little easier time with that when I mentioned Chattanooga. So my family had a place that was across the mountain, and these are again your smaller mountains from Chattanooga, but the roads kind of follow the contours of the mountains. They're very curvy, and my grandfather drove this big old like Econoline van, big Ford van, um, and he would drive that thing 70 miles an hour in the dark, and there's no lights. You're just going down this 2-lane road that's curvy as hell, and he's just flying through. And so that's where I learned to drive. So like, you get me in the mountains, Jamie hates it. Like I made the mistake when we first started dating of she said that she gets motion sick, and my simple mind thought, well, maybe I'll just get her through the experience faster. That is, listeners, that is not the answer. So yeah, she I don't think she'll ever forgive me for that experience, but I learned my lesson, and I don't do that anymore.
yeah, don't do that.
So yeah, anything else about Denver, Brent?
No, what's on your list?
All right, last one on my list is another place I've only been to once, but I was so struck by it that if I had been able to quickly figure out how both of us could live and work there, um, I probably would have just had somebody ship me my stuff. And this is Honolulu, Hawaii, and because I lived in Jacksonville, where everything seems like it's 45 minutes away. Um, I'm gonna expand it to the whole island of Oahu. Um, but I want to begin by saying one of the coolest experiences. It was very somber and sobering, and just gave you an interesting perspective. Is you must, if you go to Honolulu, do the Pearl Harbor Monument Museum. It's going to take you at least half a day, and it it will give you pause if you have any humanity in you. They do a really good job of framing it and giving you a perspective on what it meant and where it came from and what happened. That you don't get. I As much as I love history and have learned history, I went there and walked away changed a little bit. So yeah, I will say, if you do nothing else in Honolulu, take the time to go to the Pearl Harbor Monument Museum, and the War Memorial or whatever. Uh, Another thing I mentioned on our last episode, the Ala Moana Mall, which is world famous. It's outdoors, really cool place. You get to see some stores you don't see everywhere. I was actually talking to my wife last night because we were watching a show where the Hermes bag, the Birkin bag, came up, and I started questioning, like, is it really that rare? Because I happened to walk into the Hermes store, which I didn't even realize they had like stores. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but I didn't know. And I'm walking around looking at it almost like I'm in an art gallery. And this guy in the jewelry room or the watch room where they had watches and things, he just like hops up from his meeting with his coworker and starts talking to me and proceeded to lead me around the store for about 45 minutes. And I told him very early on that, like, look, man, this is not. I didn't even know you had stores. I've always assumed this is not the kind of place I can afford to be in. Um, he spent a long time just showing me the store and showing me what they had. And turns out he was from corporate. He's not. He wasn't even an employee. But it was a delightful experience. And even um, at one point, I was walking by the Omega store and I kind of peeked in, and I, I'm not James Bond. I can't afford an Omega watch, but
They're
I kind of.
not that expensive.
They're not, but they're more than I would spend on a watch.
Okay.
And I kind of peeked my head in, and they said, "Come on in, come on in." And they were so welcoming, even though I said I cannot. There is no way I can afford to buy one of these watches. They were so wonderful. The people, and this was everywhere I went in Hawaii. The people were so welcoming and friendly, which is something I think a lot of places seem to have lost. So anyway, the Ala Moana Mall, if you ever want to experience some really high end stores in a really cool mall setting, really good.
So Honolulu was also on my list, and
Okay.
I did include Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
Also, Diamond Head State Monument
Yeah. So I did not make it up there. I got distracted, but
from the shopping.
no, from I went to a drag show instead.
Oh, okay.
Really cannot recommend enough Hula's Bar and Lay Stand.
Wow.
But
All
anyway,
right.
go ahead, Brad. Continue.
No, it's a fantastic natural. Uh, it's basically it's the park is in the crater. That the crater was formed about 300,000 years ago, by a single explosive eruption, and it's fantastic. You can actually look at it online as well and see some amazing pictures. Be prepared to do some walking
Yeah.
with that. You're definitely because you've got in order to get into that crater, you're going to be doing quite a bit of walking around. But it's just such amazing views.
Yeah. It's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah,
One thing I will say is if you go to Honolulu and stay in that like downtown or downtown adjacent area, rent one of the bikes. They offer like a I don't remember. It's like a number of minutes or hours or whatever. You can rent it. It's very affordable. Rent a bike. You can ride their pedal assist. So yes, you have to pedal, but they have electric assist, so you're not pedaling as hard.
okay.
You don't really get tired, um, and you can see so much more of the city. It's a very rider friendly city. There are moments where you might be like, I probably shouldn't have gone on this street, but it's a great spot. That Waikiki Beach area from really Diamond Head all the way up to that Ala Moana. There's a park right on the ocean next to that Ala Moana Mall. That whole area is just amazing. There's so many restaurants and bars and neat, even just resorts that you can just walk through. One of the things I loved about Hawaii was where in Florida we passed a law because we're assholes that basically said if you have a resort on the beach, you own the beach up to the water line. Now, you can be in the water and they can't do anything about it. But if you're on the sand, they can say, get off of our sand. But in Hawaii, the beaches are public, period. So the fancy resort you saw in a movie, they have to let you in so that you can go to the beach. Like you can walk through. Now, you can't be an asshole, but you can walk through and go to the beach. We actually went to the Turtle Bay Resort, which has been in some movies. Wonderful, absolutely gorgeous. Can't recommend it enough. And we're able to go in, hang out, have cocktails at the bar, rent a cabana. It was great. But Waikiki is very friendly. It's very open. It's very crowded, but you can go anywhere. And Honolulu is awesome. Like I'm a big fan. Anything else you had on your list of Honolulu?
No, I think we're good.
I do want to recommend one more thing. Well, two more things. One, greatest thing about Honolulu, ABC stores everywhere. If you're from Florida, ABC is the liquor store. When you're in Hawaii, ABC is like a combination gift shop, grocery store, and 7-Eleven. Some amazing poke, amazing sushi, amazing shit. What's the thing with spam? What's the thing you get with spam there? You don't
Spam.
need spam. No.
I never liked spam.
Oh god. No, but like I don't either. But there's a thing that you get with spam.
Um,
Anyway,
Monty Python.
yeah, sure. But no, like I said, ABC stores are amazing. And finally, the Dole Plantation. It is not in Honolulu proper. You have to drive there or take a bus or something. But the Dole Plantation is kind of in the middle of the island, and if you even kind of like pineapple, the pineapple at the Dole Plantation will change your life. It is there. There's a reason people go there and then ship themselves a pineapple because it's not like what you get at Publix or your local grocery store. It's truly special. So, and if you ever go, please send me some cashews. They make these pineapple cashews, and I didn't buy them because I was being like, oh, I shouldn't spend this money, and I should have spent the money because they are so good, and I regret that decision to this day. So,
Well, but just to let you know, they would have been long gone by now.
yeah, but I could have had them when I got back, and it would have just been great.
Just imagine that you did.
You know, it would be even greater to imagine that one of our listeners is like, hey, going to Hawaii to get Daniel some pineapple cashews.
Okay.
All right. But that's it for me for Honolulu. Actually, that's it for. I think I covered all my things.
That's pretty good. I mean, considering we're already at over an hour mark.
Oh Lord, jeez, Brad, you're
Yeah,
supposed to tell me we went too far. All right.
that's
Well,
all right.
fast forward. All right. Next topic. Right. Next
Yes.
topic.
Yes.
All right. Next topic was so Memorial Day is coming up, and one of my pet peeves has always been people who don't understand the difference between the military holidays. So, what I would like to talk about on our next episode is Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, and Veterans Day. What do they mean? Where do they come from? And how do we celebrate them? Kind of open-ended conversation there, but I think it's a fun one that we can have some interesting conversations with. All right, wrapping up. Shoot, Brad, how do we end this? How do we end our episodes?
Usually I dance and sing.
Well, please do. Shoot.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We covered the topic. We had the next episode's topic. Final thoughts. We're not doing that. All right.
I don't have any final thoughts.
I'm all out of thoughts. This wine is lovely, by the way. Anyway, please check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts as Wine, Whiskey, and Words. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope you will subscribe and comment and tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. We are also on YouTube, Wine, Whiskey, and Words, if you want to see our ugly mugs. We also have an email at winewhiskeyandword@gmail.com. Our website is winewhiskeyandwords.com. One of these days, our web administrator will update that said website. And we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, and look forward to sharing the next one with you. Cheers.
Cheers.